Welcome to Business Innovators Radio, featuring industry influencers and trendsetters sharing proven strategies to help you build a better life right now.
Hello, and welcome to another edition of our special on Women's History Month, hashtag Choose to Challenge. And I'm honored and privileged to have our special guest, Audra Agen, with us. How are you doing, Audra?
I'm great. How are you, Luana?
I'm well, thank you. Well, Audra, I want to just jump right in. I'm going to turn it over to you to tell our listening audience a little bit about you, what you're doing, and what's new in your world.
Thank you. First of all, thank you for inviting me. I love attending your event and being part of Celebrate You. So thank you for having me. Just let me tell you a little bit about myself. I have a 25-year career in banking and lending and financial services. And it's been quite the journey. It's been an interesting ride. As you might imagine, in a lot of cases, I have been the only female in the room because it's a male-dominated field. So I've usually been the lone woman in the room, but it's been quite the education. I have 2 young adult children. I have been married for 25 years. We got married right out of college. And we were just young and dumb and in love and rushed right into marriage and had 2 children. But what I'm doing now, which is my passion, is I have started and am hosting a podcast. And the podcast is called Women in the Arena, and it's dedicated to celebration. And it's celebrating women all over the world, of all walks of life. And it is my intent to celebrate the magnificence, that's a hard word, magnificence of who they are, of what they contribute, the value that they give to their careers, their families, to their communities, to the world. And I wanted to create a platform to showcase that, because they are unsung heroes, and I want to sing their praises as loudly as I can.
I love hearing that. And, within Celebrate You, that is our whole focus, is to help create a platform where women can truly celebrate and embrace who they are mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually, and financially, because then they're able to make change and impacts around the world. So we're here in Women's History Month. Tell me, what does that mean to you to have a month that's spotlighting women and celebrating women, and how we as women are beginning to celebrate each other more and more?
Well, I look at it as an opportunity. I look at it as a start, because it's wonderful that we get an entire month. And I think it's an opportunity to educate each other, educate ourselves, and educate the people around us, our children, our partners, our coworkers, the men in our lives, because we are so much more than just a day or a month. And it's an opportunity to educate them on how capable we really are, what we truly contribute, and to highlight some of the achievements that may have been overlooked. So having this month of opportunity and education, I think, is a really good start.
Well, the theme this year is hashtag Choose to Challenge. And with what you're doing already, Women in the Arena, I mean, I think of, just gladiators, Olympians, just in there women making their mark. So what does Choose to Challenge mean to you, and how do you feel that you're challenging the status quo? How are you pushing the envelope? How are you moving the needle of change?
Well, initially, it was a challenge for myself. It is a huge challenge to step out of one's comfort zone, and stepping out of one's comfort zone and producing an interview every single week for anybody and everybody to hear is definitely a challenge. And it was initially a challenge for me. And it was a challenge in surrender and a challenge in trust and just trusting in the process and expecting growth. And I've received more than I ever expected. For me, this is for me personally. For the women that I've been interviewing and for the women that are in my audience, I want them to challenge what they think of themselves. I want them to challenge holding themselves back. I want them to challenge playing by the rules and playing it safe. I want them to feel comfortable with the discomfort of expressing how amazing you are and telling your fellow woman how amazing they are as well. This idea of we're each other's competition is completely antiquated and completely false. We are not each other's competition. We are each other's best asset. So I challenge to remove that view of being someone's competition and being their ally and calling it out. When you see a woman that's doing something phenomenal, tell them, let them know that what they're doing is fantastic and it's making an impact. It could maybe making an impact on you personally. So this is what I'm challenging. I'm challenging everybody to get out of their safe zone and push into the discomfort, because there is magnificence waiting there. And in that outside of that comfort zone, there is magic. There is definitely magic.
Haven't you noticed when you're able to celebrate others, there's something liberating in that? You know, it seems
yes.
like, yeah,
Yes.
it's a whole different level of thinking and experiencing life.
Yes. I started the podcast not because I wanted to talk about myself, but because I wanted to talk about other women. And it has been such a joy and a pleasure and an honor to do this, because I feel like by me giving them the platform to really showcase themselves, which they may not have had a platform before, or the opportunity may never have come to them before, that there's such a grace in that. And there's such a gift in that. And I don't think that the women that I interview realize that. I try to explain that to them, and I'm not sure that I do a very good job. But I always feel as if I've been given a gift every time I interview somebody, and that they're also translating that gift to whomever's listening to the interview. So it is transformative for me personally, and I hope that it is transformative for them as well as the audience. That's the goal. Anyway, it's the goal to keep paying it forward.
That's beautiful. So talking about paying it forward, when we think about celebrating the women's right to vote, which National Association of Women wanted to extend the celebration into 2021. So we're actually at the 101 year celebration. What does that mean to you when you think about all the work that went forward, that we are now reaping that benefit? But it's more than just a political stake in the ground. It's really giving ourselves permission to elevate our voice.
Yes, I would agree. And in spite of whatever political stance anybody is, I will say that I watched Inauguration Day and my emotions surprised me. And I'll explain to you what happened. As they were descending, they were ascending the stairs, and Kamala Harris was at the top of the stairs. I burst into tears. I absolutely wept, because the magnitude of how far we've come in now 101 years hit me all at once. And I took a sigh of relief, because I felt like I could exhale just a little bit, because it felt like, like I said, in spite of anybody's political standing, I felt like we took a step forward, just a little bit. And it was emotional. It was incredibly emotional. I felt like it's a lot. It's a lot to come that far in 100 years. And I felt it full force. And like I said, the emotion surprised me. I didn't expect to be sitting there at my computer doing the whole ugly cry, because it was not pretty. It was not cute.
So, what would you tell our listening audience about having the confidence, having the boldness to stand in their truth and to express their voice?
I would say that there's just no other choice. And I know it's scary. And I know that that's easy for me to say sitting on the other side of it, because I sat behind it for a really long time. I kept myself at that starting line for a really long time. I played by the rules. I kept myself in the guardrails, and I just felt like I was lying. I felt like there was more that I had to do. There was more that I had to say, and that I knew that I was muzzling myself. And once I stepped forward into saying my truth and accepting fully who I am, what I'm capable of, and living up to that potential, there was no stopping it. I had to keep pushing forward and continuing to stretch my comfort zone, because I've expressed myself in ways that I never would have had I not stepped out of that comfort zone. I have been demanding more for myself before than I ever would have. I have tolerated less than I've ever have before. And like I said, I think that there's no choice, because you are worthy. You're absolutely worthy of the best. But the trick is that you have to give the best to yourself first before anybody else can. And you need to step forward into that truth in order to realize that. And the rest of the world will fall in line.
Do you think, Audra, that these 12 and a half months of this pandemic has allowed us to, as women, to really quiet ourselves and hear that still small voice echoing, and helping us to identify who we really are and what our values are? And you said being comfortable with creating those boundaries.
Yeah, absolutely. We had no choice. The world made us slow down. And I mean, women are busy in general. We're really busy. We juggle a lot. We're running kids here and there. Maybe we're working outside the home, maybe we're not, but there's constant activity. I don't know any women that just sit on the couch and watch the TV. I don't know any of them, none of them. And even if they are sitting down, they're probably folding clothes, or they are trying to wrangle a child or something. I don't know any woman that actually just sits. The pandemic forced us to. The pandemic forced us to stop. And once we stopped, we had a chance to take a breath and look around and go, this is not right. This is not what I wanted. This is not what I had planned. And maybe I need to fix things. Maybe I need to make some changes. And in a lot of ways, the pandemic was a gift, and looked like a gift in the beginning, and it sure doesn't feel like a gift. But the gift of time and the gift of slowing down has allowed people to surrender. I think that surrender is a big deal, because we fight all day. We fight something, or we fight for someone all day. There is power and grace in surrender. And I think that all of us had to get quiet to figure out to what we needed to surrender to. And surrendering meant for a lot of us to surrender to whom we really are and start demanding better for ourselves rather than just accepting what was happening.
Well, before we conclude, I want to ask you a question about the woman who most influenced you in your life.
I'm going to try not to get emotional because it's my grandmother and she's no longer with us, but she was magnificent. She was remarkable. She was born in Sonora, Mexico. She was a refugee. She had an 8th grade education and she was brilliant. Smartest woman I have ever met. She read everything she could get her hands on. She was talented in everything she did. She was a musician. She was an amazing cook. She could sew. She could paint. She could play cards and checkers like nobody's business and would never let me win, ever, because she said, I'm not teaching you anything if I let you win. She had also figured out, and she was way ahead of her time, that a significant force would be a woman that would act like a lady and think like a man. So she was way ahead of her time, way before Steve Harvey ever figured that out. So she put me through her version of etiquette boot camp. And at 9 years old, I had to walk around the backyard with a book on my head because she was going to teach me how to walk. She taught me how to sit. She taught me how to cross your legs appropriately. She taught me how to set a table and know what all those glasses and forks and knives and spoons were for and what all the extra plates were for. Because she kept telling me, when you go to all these fancy dinners, when you're older, you're going to have impeccable manners and you're going to sit there and you're going to behave correctly. And that's going to intimidate everybody at the table. Well, I was 9 years old. I had no idea what fancy dinner she was talking about I was going to. But wouldn't you know, she was right. Because I mentioned to you in the beginning that many times I'm the only woman in the room. Many times I'm the only woman at a business dinner as well. And I made sure that I kept up all of those lessons that my grandmother taught me. And I started judging the ones that had the terrible manners at the table, that not knowing what was what. And I could tell a lot from people that took the time on how they treated the dinner, how they treated the wait staff, and how they took their time. That tells a lot about people. So my grandmother was way ahead of her time. And honestly, if she was born later, she probably would have run her own company or been a movie star or something. She was just born too early. So she passed all that on to me so I could help fulfill a destiny that maybe she couldn't have. So it was her. It was absolutely her. And I am grateful for her every single day. I miss her every single day. There's not one day that I don't reach for my phone wanting to call her and tell her, look what I've done, or look what we've all done. Grams, there's a female vice president. Look, these are things that I wish I could tell her, and that all of her lessons and all of the wisdom was not wasted. And I try to live up to all of that every single day. Part of the reason that I have the podcast is for her. I hope that I'm doing her proud. I really do.
Well, I know you are, and she's smiling down on you. And what a beautiful story. Thank you so much for sharing that. So, what would you like to tell the ladies before we end, and also tell them how they can contact you?
Well, I would say be true to yourself. Step out of that comfort zone. Step off of the starting line. You're not gaining anything by sitting there at the starting line, playing by the rules, trying to play it safe. keeping yourself in those guardrails. It's not you. That's not you. That's not what you were put on this earth to do. There is something that you were made for to put on this earth. Step outside your comfort zone and go chase it, because the world is waiting for that. They need you to do that. The world will be a much, much better place if you step into your destiny, no matter how frightening it is, and it definitely is. But you owe it to the world and you owe it to yourself to do that. And if you'd like to reach me, because I want to tell as many stories as possible, if you are a woman that is ready to tell your story, or if you know of a woman that's ready to tell their story, please contact me. You can reach me directly through my email, which is audra@womeninthearena.net, or any of our social pages. Instagram is arena_women. And then we have both a Facebook and a LinkedIn page, which is just Women in the Arena. And I hope that you do, because I want to tell your story.
Audra, thank you so much for being a part of the series Women History Month, #Choose the Challenge. It's been it's always awesome to be sitting with you, and a true honor. Thank you so much.
Thank you again for inviting me. I love it when you and I have any conversation, because we always learn something new and we always have a good time. So thank you for having me here.
Thank you. And to our listening audience, as we always say, love yourself, embrace yourself, and whatever you do, always celebrate you. Until next time, goodbye.
Thanks for listening to Business Innovators Radio. To hear all episodes featuring leading industry influencers and trendsetters, visit us online at businessinnovatorsradio.com today.